I'm going to introduce, I think, the best candidate for the mayor of Honolulu in the upcoming race, Kirk Caldwell. And remember, he's here to listen to you, not to talk to you. He wants to hear what's so important in Manoa, because as a mayor, I think you need to know that every community isn't the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Hubert. For those who don't know, this is Hubert Min. Lives up on Lower Road. His dad, Herbert Min, is one of the great boxing referees in the state and maybe around the country. His uncle, Phyllis Min, Howard, was, which one was the rep? Philip Min. And then Al Min was the great swim coach for you guys know. So he comes from a pretty good family of servants, community servants. I did want to thank all of you for coming tonight. And as Hubert mentioned, a lot of what I would like to do tonight is listen to you. Because so many politicians get up and they talk. And no doubt, I love talking. People tell me, I think you got a lot of Portuguese in you. While I was born in Waipahu and raised in Hilo and those strong Filipino communities, strong Japanese communities, I did learn to talk a lot. Maybe it's because there's 5 kids in our family, we had to all keep up with each other, and whoever talked the most got more attention. But tonight I want to listen, because I think so much of leading is active listening too. It's hearing what people are thinking, what the community is concerned about, taking that in through active listening, and then making decisions and being a better leader. I do have a roadmap or my vision that I've worked on, and it's being finalized. We're going to be putting it on our website, and we'll be taking that out to the community. It's kind of, here's what I want to do, here's what I've been trying to do, here's what I want to do, but I want to hear from you, is what you think about it, and what else can we add to it to make it better. Because no one in this room has all the solutions. I sure don't. But I do have dreams, and I think those dreams become reality by working with the community to implement them. And I wanted to start here in Manoa, because this is my village. The Japanese have a term, moto, M-O-T-O, which means don't forget where you come from, your village. And while I was born in Waipahu and raised in Hilo, I live here now. I wanted to move here when he came back from Washington, D.C., where I worked for Dad Hanoi back in the 70s. My wife finished Georgetown Law School. She's a local girl. Her family owns some Tonoi Saimin stand. We chose Manoa because I told her, this reminds me of Hilo. One, it is green like Hilo. It rains a lot. But that's not the only reason. And I like green and I like rain. I have no problem with rain. I can work in the yard any day of the week with rain. It's the community. It's the feeling here. You all know it. You go to Manoa, Long's, or the Safeway, you're going to run into your neighbors. We run into each other. We talk a little bit. We take time to share our stories and go home feeling connected. I need that. I need to have a sense of feeling and belonging. And I have that here. I'm never moving out of this valley. This is my village that I come from. And I think, like they say, the Japanese motto, I want to start the listening tour here in my village and then take it out. We're going to go to every community, Palolo, Kamuki, Aiera, Pro City, Waipahu, where I was born, in a plantation hospital, and hit all those places and hear what people have to say. Put it into our roadmap or our vision, and then come back for a second try to see if we got it right in terms of things that you think. So I want to say a little bit more, and then I'm going to be quiet. And I want to listen. We're going to write it down. We have a tablet up there, and Sean Hamamoto is going to help write it down. And Sean's involved in part because I knew his dad when he went to school in the Big Island. He grew up here, but his dad is from Waimea on the Big Island. So just a couple things that I wanted to emphasize. First one I want to emphasize is you got Isaac Choi. Isaac, come up here. The representative who, when I left the house, Isaac filled my shoes much better than I could ever do that. You guys all know Isaac here? He works about as hard as anyone I know. I go to his office all the time. He's my accountant. He's never there. You know who's really working harder is his wife, Lori.
Well, somebody's got to work, right?
Right.
Somebody's got to work.
But here's the thing that's great, and I'm digressing a bit, but Isaac, the great thing about Isaac is that he went to the house, he came from the private sector. Much like me, before I went into politics when I was 50, I had never served, and so I got exposed to the political process. Isaac brings a private sector view to the public sector. And he's really made a difference in the House in terms of watching finances. He's an accountant by training. Serves a great role in the Finance Committee and in leadership now in the House in terms of making people act a little bit more common sense-like in terms of finances and budget. And then the guy just works harder than anyone I know. I mean, he's walked to every house many times. And what he says, I've touched everyone in this valley because he used to pack people's groceries at Safeway. And all those groceries that you took home, he put in the bag at one point or
Squeeze your
another.
bread. No.
I don't know if you want to just say a few words, but yes.
Good evening, everybody. You know, tonight I came down to support Kirk, and I was looking at this race very, very deeply. And you know, what choice do we really have? Right now, we have a mayor that wants the trappings of the office, not willing to get down and do the work. We have a boy from Kalihi that finally, by God's grace, made it to the top of the mountain. But all he does is look down upon us. All he can say is, I'm going to sue you. I think we had enough of that kind of politics. We need somebody like Kirk. He'll listen to you. But more importantly, he'll lead us. And we're looking for a leader in this race. You know, representative government is one thing, and you know how grumpy I am, and I don't work at being likable like Kirk does, okay? But right now, in the political scene, we're looking for leaders. Somebody that has a vision that can lead us there. Somebody that will listen, but at the end of the day, they'll make the hard choices. And you know, Kirk's making those hard choices today. You know he is. This is the man I supported every single time that he ran. I will always support this man. He's a nice guy. Well, I'm trying to be a nice guy like him, and I'll never make it. But somebody that can lead us to a better place that we can all call home. So Kirk, you know, I wish you luck, and I know you're the man. Thank you.
Well, we heard from Isaac Choi, and I think Manoa has some of the best representatives you can find in not only City and County of Honolulu, the entire state. You know, the other one is Brian Taniguchi, you know, great public servant. A few more words, and then I'm going to turn it over to you. And you heard Isaac talk. You know, I loved being the mayor and the managing director, and I actually loved it more than serving in the legislature. The legislature was a blast for me in terms of debating the big issues on civil rights and those kinds of things. But being mayor was about being up close and personal with people in their everyday lives. It is about making sure the sewer works. It is about filling potholes, making sure there are gray bins and blue bins and green bins. It is about making sure the grass is cut in our district park. It is about repaving our roads and all those other things that every day, if things don't work, we are upset. And we're not happy. But they work for the most part. And I like the feeling that I was helping make them work. And knowing that when I went to bed at the end of the night, that life was better because things that I did. And it fulfilled me. And I felt I was being a true public servant. At the same time, I did embrace huge legacy projects. And that included our very controversial rail project. Most people in Manoa, I would say, do not support rail. Because we're 15 minutes to anywhere. We can get to Waikiki in 15 minutes, maybe 12. Get to Ala Moana in 12, we can get downtown in 12. And so people here think we're not going to need it to commute. Why should we spend that kind of money? I embraced it when I was in the House, putting the bills to start the debate again. And for me, it's about living better in the urban core. Rail to me is about respecting our aina, a smaller footprint, not no footprint. It is still a footprint, and it's an elevated system. It's not as beautiful as it could be if it was invisible underground. An underground system is $20 billion. Off-grade in the air is $5.5 billion. Expensive, tremendously expensive. The most expensive project we've ever endeavored to build in our entire state. But I think more of the same, more roads, more freeways, more asphalt, more cars, more exporting our dollars out to buy oil is not the way to live long term. And so I want to start a system that's going to serve people for hundreds of years from now, and it will. And it has to start somewhere. It's like a spider web. It will go to other places. This thing say it won't go to Manoa, Manoa. It doesn't go to Waikiki. It doesn't go to Hawaii Kai. I do believe you come back to this place 100 years from now, it will be going to those places and others. Just like in every other major city that's ever built the system. They build the first line, they build a second line, a third line, and it goes. And people use this system. It gives people the choice to get out of their cars. But I embraced that issue as controversial. I wasn't afraid, and I think I exercised leadership, although people may not have agreed with the position I took. The other thing is, another legacy project is our sewer infrastructure project. We're going to spend $4.7 billion between now and 2038 to redesign our sewer system, mainly in the urban core. Deep tunneling for gravity flow sewers. Boring stuff. But think about it, we're building a system. Once built, it's like the Roman sewer system or the sewer system in Paris. You know, they did these, the Roman one 2,000 years ago, the Paris one 1500s. They still serve those citizens of those two cities. We need to do this kind of investment again on our urban core, because once you build it, you can live more densely in the urban core, preserving our outlying lands. And guess what? It can serve a lot more people. So over time, as you amortize these investments, it costs less per citizen to pay for. And so I think it's the right thing to do. And while living more dense in the urban core doesn't mean that we don't have parks like this. We need more of them, and we need them to be better maintained. We need to have off-grade bike paths. We need to have sidewalks. We need to have the things that make us celebrate life together with each other. And I believe one way to do that is around our rail stations. We can recreate neighborhoods that once existed. When I was a kid, Waipahu was a neighborhood. Everyone knew everyone. When I'd go in the flume, my neighbors would call my mother and I'd be in trouble. She'd pull me out by the ear and scold me because she's afraid I'd get sucked down to the mill and ground up with the cane. They cared, they knew who I was, they knew where I lived, and they knew who to tell on me. So this was that kind of community. Manoa was that kind of community. When you who were born and raised in this valley knew what it was like. We can recreate those neighborhoods again around our rail system if we do it right. That's called transit-oriented development. So these are just some of the things. I'm passionate about the little things and the big things. But I'd like to hear from you and your ideas and your thoughts for a while. And we'll write them down. And if there are questions you want to ask me, we'll talk about that. If you have ideas or gripes or things we need to do better, I'd like to hear about that. Before I turn it over to all of you, I did want to point out one of our elder stateswomen, and that's Shim Kanazawa back there in the wheelchair. I was so touched when Shim came tonight. When I first ran for the House, her husband, Shim, helped me get elected. And they speak volumes for this community in ways that maybe most people don't know. When Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, the Honganji just down the street, Makalemoilili, was turned over. Her husband was involved as a young man to turn it over. And people like Sam Cooke, who just lives up the street in the valley, a very rich Haole man, and others agreed that they would hold title to this place so that it wouldn't be taken away by the government until the end of the war. At the end of the war, they turned it back to the Japanese community. That's what this community is about. That's what this community should continue to be about. It's about helping each other. It's about being kind and loving and working together. Shim represents that story. She went up after the internment and helped with people who are interned here. She worked out at the Swedish embassy, was it? Or the Swedish embassy took over the Japanese consulate, right? Yeah. And she went and visited families and tried to help. And Shim's been doing it ever since through Project Donna, working with seniors. But I wanted to point her out because she's in her 90s. It took effort to come here. I'm sorry, Shim, I said that. But it takes effort, and she's here because she cares. And I'm honored. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. Thanks. So the floor is all of yours. We talked way too long. And someone needs to be brave enough to start. And I don't know who that would be, but I know. Yes. Do you want to come up here, or you want to ask it? There's another microphone somewhere around there.
One behind you.
Hi. I don't know you, but now I...
It's nice to meet you. I don't know if I mentioned you.
Okay, my name's Ellen Watson, and I live in Manoa, and I deeply, deeply care about Manoa and my neighbors, and I serve as the vice chair on the Manoa Neighborhood Board. And, where are you? There you
Right
go.
there.
Sorry, don't have my glasses on,
Yeah.
so, anyway. I don't know you and your history, so I'd like you to be able to tell us that. Isaac likes you, so that's in your favor because I really like this man.
Thanks, Isaac.
So,
I didn't even invite you.
already, You're doing okay. And so I don't even know anything about you other than kind of what my perceptions have been from the newspaper or other things. And I'll tell you those because I'm just a straight up kind of girl. Okay. That I think you served on city council, but I'm not sure. You were a house rep, which I just learned. So I knew you were involved somehow with it. And then you were somehow connected with Moofy, right? Okay. So my perception is you're just a Moofy guy. Okay? You're Moofy's right-hand man. And when he decided he didn't want to be our mayor, which he should have told us on day one, we wouldn't have elected him. So we don't have a revolving door mayor all the time. People would be trying to use it for leverage as a launching pad to better aspirations, okay? So I want a mayor who wants to be mayor. So I want you to tell me that if you're mayor, you're not going to drop it to run for governor. So what's your answer?
I'm not going to drop it to run for governor. Of course, everyone says that. But again, I'm going to be 60 in September. And I'm not a professional politician.
Okay.
I ran in 2002, served 6 years. That's the total of my political life.
Pretty good to get
So
seasoned, but-
I'm here because I like the issues, as you think, of city issues. I want to serve the next 8 years to make a difference. That will make me 68, which I think is about good enough. I want to spend some time with my wife before I can't spend any more time with her. And she's worked very hard all her life. I've worked hard. So this is my career. It's my way to get back. I did my private sector experience. I felt I did a lot there, but I want to now get back to my computing. So I'm not running for anything else.
Thank you. Okay, and that would be Senate or Congress or nothing else. You're going to be mayor.
Nothing
If we elect you mayor, you're going to serve your terms. Okay, so that's good. The other thing is, I want you to distinguish yourself somehow from Moofy, because I just see you as a Moofy guy. And a guy who sucked up to the union so they could push the train through. And it doesn't feel good. And I could be wrong, and I'm so sorry for that impression, but that's just what I got from reading the papers, and I don't even know you from the man in the moon. And now I need to know you if you want my vote. So I want you to tell me kind of the history of that, and then later I have some questions on the rail. But first I thought everybody wanted to kind of get to know your history and who you are, because I just see you as a Moofy union guy who's pushing Moofy's train. And I'm sorry if that's unfair, and I don't mean to be unfair, but I just want to be honest with you. That's my perception. I think it's other people's perception. So in your campaign, you need to set that straight, because a lot of people kind of have that feeling about you, that you're just a Moofy sidekick. And so you're going to need to dispel that if you want to stand on your own as mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Ellen. I mean, you're not the first one to ask this question or to tell me that, and I hear it all the time. A little side story. After I lost, I went and met with Ben Cayetano, because he was at every Peter Carlisle fundraiser. I didn't understand exactly why. Now he's running, he hates Peter, but he was with Peter, helped him get elected, and I wanted to know why, because first of all, Ben and I am not running for my party. I'm a strong Democrat, and I believe I'm a progressive Democrat all my life, from when I went off to college in Boston. And I wanted to know, why were you helping someone who was a member of the Republican Party until right before he ran? And he told me what you said, Ellen, you're a Moofy guy. I said, why? He said, because you work for Moofy. And I asked him, how long? He said, I don't know. I said, I worked all of 18 months of my entire life for Moofy Hanneman. And yes, he was my boss. But I told Ben, you're a John Y. Hay guy. No, I'm not. I'm Ben Cayetano. I'm independent. I'm not John Y. Hay. You're John Y. Hay's guy. You worked for him for 8 years as a lieutenant governor. You went to everything John Y. Hay told you to go to. You did every ribbon cutting. You went to every visitor VIP thing. You're just John Y. Hay. You don't have an independent thought in your head. He got really pissed at me, as Ben does. The other thing Ben told me, he's supporting me for mayor. After the end of it all, he said, okay, I see you made your point. You are who you are. You're not Moofy. You're your own person. I'm going to support you even though we disagree on rail. And then when I ran into him later, he says, I'm running against you. But my point is, in all seriousness, yes, I worked for Moofy Hanneman for 18 months as his managing director. He was my boss. We didn't agree with everything that he wanted to do. He and I had differences in opinions. But just like with any boss, you do what he asks you to do. I was his managing director. He hired me, or I can quit. And there were times where I had strong disagreements where I thought about quitting. But I didn't. And part of the reason, selfishly, I didn't, is I wanted to become the acting mayor so I could be the mayor. Because I want to be mayor. So that is as honest as I can get about it. We agreed on a lot of things. One of the things we did agree with is on rail. I think I told you that tonight. I support rail. I supported rail before Mufi was mayor. You can ask, Isaac can go dig up the bills I put in the initial bills in 2003 to start the debate. It formed a task force that Lingo headed. They came out at the end and said, an elevated rail system is the way we need to go. Then I worked hard in the 0.5% excise tax. I led the referendum. I went to the city. So that I'm not hiding my position on rail. Mufi and I are like this on it. We worked hard. I disagreed on some of the approaches he had towards rail and the discussion. I do think you need to listen to concerns and you need to address them. And you got to also say sometimes we don't have answers for everything. So we differ on things. We differ on a lot of the progressive democratic kind of issues. On issues like same-sex marriage and civil unions, he's in one position, I'm on another. On a lot of the worker issues, I am very pro, you say union, I'm very pro working family. I have been all my life. And I think it's because I grew up in these plantation communities and I saw what hard work was about. And so I support a lot of their issues. I'm not in the pocket of unions, but you'll see me supporting things like increasing the minimum wage. You'll see me supporting things like making sure there's equity in pay based on, not on gender. So men and women make the same. And I fought hard for those kind of things. Unions tend to like that stuff too, so they would support me. But working for a man for 18 months does not mean every value I had I threw out the window and now I have that person's values. Any more than any of you in this room who have had bosses would throw out everything else that you had just because you work for the person. You work for the person, you do what you're told as when they're the boss, because you'd expect the same if you're the boss. So we're not the same. We're very different people in terms of style, manner. Look, I'm 5'10", Haole guy. He's a 6'7" Samoan. Just from starting from that. But we're very different, as you guys know. So, does that answer your question? I really want to emphasize it because I get asked this all the time. And I've been told by people, after I lost, I went to Bishop Museum. My wife's on the board of Bishop Museum. And she took me something, and one of the guards came up to me and said, "Are you Kirk Caldwell?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "I didn't vote for you." That takes guts, right? She just does right out something negative. Most people will tell you they voted for you. If all the people told me that they voted for me, they really voted for me, I would be mayor. But there are people who will tell me they didn't because of Mufi. And when I ask them why, and they say, "Well, you work for him." I said, "Well, Tim Johns is the head of the Bishop Museum. Are you like Tim Johns? He's your boss. You think just like him?" No. So I said, "That's right, he was my boss. It doesn't mean that we march lockstep." So I'm going to keep getting asked this question. And I'm sure Brian Schatz will be asked this question working for Neil Abercrombie. Because he'll have worked for him for 8 years. If Neil gets reelected, he'll say, "You're just like Neil." And Brian is Brian. I know Brian well. And I know Neil well. They're very different kinds of people, wired, their personalities. But we'll get it. So I hope that answers the question.
So you ran for mayor already, I guess.
Yeah.
And when was that, and who was the
No. So I ran for mayor in 2010 and lost. And Peter Carlisle was the other main candidate. You had Panos Prevodoris running, and you had Rob Tam running. And I wanted the election to be in November. The council said, no, it's going to be in September in the primary. I thought we should have more time for everyone to get to know the candidates. Now, my argument was biased. Most people don't know who I am because I served in Manoa Valley. People in Manoa know who I am, and I won Manoa by a lot. But the people in Pololo next door don't, because I'm not a career professional politician. Ben Cayetano has served in the legislature and is government lieutenant for 28 years. And Peter Carlisle, 14 years as prosecutor island-wide. So people, this is one thing politicians in the House think, that everyone knows who they are because they're in their little valley or district. Go one block outside of it, they don't know. People are busy. They don't have time to pay attention. So, but I almost won. On election day, I was about 2% behind. I came from 10 points, 10%, and Peter at 60 to closing that gap. And if the election had been in November, I would have probably been here standing before you today as the mayor running for re-election. And I think people would see through my actions very different than Mayor Hammond. Okay, in terms of my background, just briefly, I lived up the street, 2725 Terrace Drive. I was served on the neighborhood board like you did in Manoa. Married to Donna Tanoy, who owned the Tanoy Simon stand, her family did. She's vice chairman at Bank of Hawaii. She was chair of the FDIC under Clinton. We met in Washington, D.C. when I worked for Dan Inouye, and she was going to Georgetown Law School. Got married. I was going to work for an investment bank in South America. Came home because I fell in love. Went to the William S. Richardson School of Law. Clerked for Chief Justice William S. Richardson. And then for the past 30 years, been a partner of one of the major law firms downtown Honolulu. That's in a nutshell. We have one daughter, Maya, who's going to be going to college this year and is waiting to hear. And we're praying that she doesn't accept the college that her boyfriend goes to, who graduated. And if any of you parents have a way to advise us on how to do that, because every time I talk to her about looking at the other schools, I think I'm just making the point that she needs to go to the school where her boyfriend is. It drives me crazy. But anyway.